Warlocks and Waffles. Warlocks and Waffles. Warlocks and Waffles. Pact once broken, forged. A pact once broken, forged anew. Waffles. Warlocks and Waffles. Warlocks and Waffles. A pact once broken, forged anew. Warlocks and Waffles.
Did you want waffles?
Good morning, everyone.
Everyone.
All of you. 100% of the people watching, except that one person. You know who you are.
I didn't want to be that guy, but I was gonna say, except for you know who you are, but no, you know, they know who they are.
Good morning.
How's it going? Good morning.
How you doing?
I got a crick in my neck, but I'm here. I'm here. I've taken all the things I need to take to feel right with the world. Feel good. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I am very tired. It felt like all day on Saturday I felt like it was Sunday, and I was like, oh man, got to the end of Saturday and was like, I have a whole other day of weekend to like recuperate. And then all day yesterday I felt the worst. Like I had no energy for anything. I was just like, I'm dying. And so I went to bed, woke up this morning, and just sort of stared into the void for a little while. Trying to will myself to get out of bed to get stuff set up, and it took longer than it normally does. But I'm here. Definitely lower energy. Also, I am almost out of my ADHD meds, and the pharmacy and my doctor's office have been unhelpful in getting more, so I'm rationing them now.
That's what I did this weekend. That's why I was like, today I took what I needed, and now I am all in. I am here.
I am down to my last 4. So I took 1 this morning when I'm supposed to take 2, and I didn't take any yesterday. Yeah, so my energy's a little on the low side today.
Well, we don't need a lot of energy, but we do need a lot of contemplation on this. So you can be like
deeply reflective
pondering
episode.
Yeah, you can ponder.
Welcome to this very special episode where we will be very reflective on all these things. What are we talking about, Junie?
I titled I wrote the outline and it's like friendship, but companions is good.
Oh, I should
Uh,
have called it the real treasure we found along the way.
son of it, you can't change it, can you?
I
Like
can
in the
change it. I can change it when we move it to YouTube.
change it in post.
If you're watching it on YouTube later, uh, this is called that you. It was never called anything else. Why would it have
Yeah,
been called anything else? That was clearly always the
things can
title of the
have
episode.
things can have more than one name, and this is one of those. You could call it a lot of things, but we know what it really is. But we're going to be talking about familiars, companion animals, mounts, NPCs, friends, people that to put it bluntly, like they're just not people. They're not actual players. They are everything you've put into the world or that your players have thrown into the world and given life, and how those things affect your narrative, your story in unexpected ways, in ways that you couldn't have asked for, but are so deeply appreciative for. And I will say that I might have told you this before. I have um I have a love-hate relationship with animals
Mm.
inside my games, only because and I know this is something that is not
Because you just love
unique to
hating
me.
animals inside your
Uh
games.
no, it's I just so happen to have groups that they want menageries. It's a lot of teens and kids, and
Right.
it's not just, oh,
Every group
oh,
you
I want a
run
wolf.
is one session away from opening a zoo,
Yeah, they
if
always
given the
want, yeah,
opportunity. Yeah.
because it's it's if a kid sees, oh, this person has a this, I want a that. So you want to be fair. So I usually put a little we'll get to the stipulations I put into it, but
Mhm.
it slowly turns into everybody wants more than one little buddy, and then everybody wants to interact with everybody else's little buddy, and it just snowballs. And for me, I if it's people, it's easier. But when it comes to creatures that are just pets and not like familiars that are actually doing something, or a mount, like, oh, I got a little Yeti tyke, or oh, I have a chicken. It's like, oh God, not again. Like, it's a lot. Um, but I have nightmare. I have like PTSD flashbacks from just having like more animals. No, no, this is what you're doing. Um, but we're going to be starting off with the familiars, companions, animals, mounts. We're going to be starting with the non-humany ones. But Hunter, what do you experience more in your games? Do you have a lot of these type of non-human little buddies in your game? Is it something where it's like there's usually a person that
I
has it?
I usually have I have more of the like friends of the party that end up traveling with the group.
Okay.
I end up more in the like humanoid categories.
Oh, okay.
Every once in a while my party will take on like pets, but it's usually specific groups. Like it's not something that like every group ends up with a pet.
Mm-hmm.
But the groups that do usually want pets for every party member.
Mm,
So like Emily, you've met Emily.
mm-hmm.
In one of the games that I was running for them and some of their friends, uh Emily's character adopted two baby owl bears,
Of course. Okay.
and raised them for a while. Ended up awakening those owl bears. That was a
Okay.
fun choice. There's
Definitely a choice.
Yeah, definitely a choice. But yeah, that was it was just a different sort of game. Um, there's usually a familiar somewhere in the party. Every group plays familiars differently. Some are just like,
Mm-hmm.
I essentially want to be able to conjure a mage hand that I can also see through.
Mm-hmm.
Others are more like attached, like this is my pet. I love this
Yeah.
creature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I play familiars a little bit differently than I've seen the majority of familiars be played, because the
Okay.
majority of the time when somebody is playing a familiar, they in most games I feel like familiars are just sort of like um, it's there when you need it to be. It's not when you don't, and like it sort of pops into existence whenever you need it to, and it's a pet that you just sort of like bamf away. You bring it
Yeah.
back. Like it can die over and over again. You're gonna have like you can just keep conjuring it. Like it's not a
Yeah.
real animal. Um, I always play familiars because they are like a fey fiend or celestial spirit, right?
Hmm.
Um, I always play familiars as like whichever spirit you are summoning the same spirit every time.
Yeah.
And so it
It's
is
funny you
the
say spirit,
Mhm,
like, because when I think of creature, I think of like it was born into being,
mhm.
and then like yeah, it's the same one. But when you say spirit, it almost implies like this thing could have existed before, like well before type of situation.
Oh, for a familiar? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that I never put in my head like, oh,
I
I've been the familiar of wizards time past. Like I never thought about
I
that.
had a so you know how in like fiend lore if a fiend is like destroyed on the prime material it like man rebuilds itself in like the abyss or hell but
Hmm.
it's like reduced in power, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had a warlock in one of my games who took the Pact of the Chain, and I
Hmm.
gave him this like imp familiar that was following him around and stuff. Years into this game, they found out that the imp was like the brother of the patron that
Ooh.
of this warlock's patron, and that brother had like staged a coup to try and like seize the power of their patron years and
Oh.
years ago, and had just
Oh.
he's been destroyed over and over and over again as punishment, and so he's been reduced to this little imp, and now as further punishment he is given as a familiar to one of the warlocks of this patron. So that ended up being a whole other quest line of the imp trying to talk them into helping free him so he could help him like the warlock break his pact and stuff. But I'm always of the mindset that a familiar should be, yes, a creature that you can conjure and summon when you need to and stuff like that. But a familiar, if it is the same spirit every time,
Hmm.
if it is the same creature that you are just like manifesting in different forms and stuff like that, then it knows who you are. It knows it knows what you've done to it in the past. If you are a group that has a familiar who is like, yeah, we're gonna send the familiar down this hallway to see if it's trapped, and like it'll go down there, and if traps go off, it'll die, and we'll just conjure it again. Um, that familiar knows that, and it remembers, and it might stop doing what you want it to if you are like just killing it over and over again, or if you're not treating it well. And familiars, I give all of my familiars different like quirks and different like little things that they want to do and stuff like that, and so then that results in them just being a little bit more dynamic than a typical pet. um, but what I find is that in like regular pets, players often want to treat regular pets like a familiar as well.
Yeah, like
Um,
give them complicated tasks or
right,
stuff like that. It's like, no, this is a regular rabbit. Like,
right.
yeah.
Like I have a cat. That cat should be able to go down to the end of the hall and disarm this trap, right? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen a cat do anything it was told.
Yeah.
Let alone like go disarm a trap.
There's only
Um,
one instance I would ever allow something that specific, whether right if it's a beast master that chose a
yeah,
weird animal, because it's like your whole thing is you made a bond with this creature. So yeah, it's not a bear, it's a wolf. If you chose a weird one, it's like I'll allow you might have this, but it's still an animal. It might get distracted or it might not fully get you. And it's different from something that like
hmm
literally can read your thoughts.
right. I love when a Beastmaster Ranger is like, yeah, I have a frog. And I'm like,
Mm. Oh
excellent.
man, I haven't
Love
had that.
love that.
That's really
Fantastic.
good.
Anytime I've had 3 different Beastmaster Rangers that have been like, I want a beast like an animal companion that will be useless in almost every situation. I had somebody choose a frog, somebody chose a mouse, and I had one guy that had a butterfly. And I was like,
Ooh.
my dude, a butterfly is just so incredibly inconvenient to
Yeah.
choose.
I just
Um,
thought a monkey would be good. A
Dude, I
monkey
would
would be
love a
really good.
monkey animal
A
companion.
monkey would
Give
be
me
really good.
give me like a Beastmaster Ranger with the pirate background, and a
Mm-hmm.
pet monkey, and just like go full Pirates of the Caribbean, little capuchin sitting on his shoulder.
That's good.
Like that'd be great. Um,
That's good.
you
I
have
hand.
more
Mhm.
experience with like the animal side of things because I
Yeah.
feel like for me, animals are either obsessed over so much that they're like, we can't bring this into combat because what if it dies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they don't care at all. Like
Yeah.
the number, like I didn't even touch on mounts because
Mm-hmm.
I have groups that have like, once you get to a certain level, teleportation becomes substantially easier. And like
Mm-hmm.
in my world, I have like in all of the major cities there are like teleportation like structures
Mm.
that they will like essentially just teleportation circle to another city, but you have to like pay to do it. So
Yeah.
but like at a certain level you have so much money, there's no reason not
Yeah.
to do that. So I have had groups that have left mounts in just like every city, that they go to a city and then they buy mounts there and then they ride them to wherever they need to, and then the next time they have to teleport, those mounts get left at that city and they'll buy new ones, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
just do that over and over and over again. um yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely a different mechanic there.
I definitely I'm gonna go into the my zoo situations, but real quick before we leave familiars, uh when you phrased it as spirits, I was just like, you put a distinction between like spirits, and when I think of spirits, I think of like the fae.
Hmm.
And when you think of fiend, I realized that depending on the player and how they worded it, I always try to give them as much agency and description on like the thing at all, and I
Hmm.
usually don't give personalities at all to familiars
Sure.
because I go by like it's whatever you tell me it is. If it
Right.
was a fiend, if it's like an imp, that's when I would go. That's when it starts hitting me like, okay, this is a thing that could exist.
There,
Otherwise,
yeah. Warlock familiars to me.
yeah,
The like any of the warlock familiars, like I would say any creature that the you choose to bring it in as a
yeah.
warlock familiar is a reflection of their
Because
patron.
everything, yeah, everything with a warlock is contractual, so
Hmm.
it's always with something that's existence. But whenever it's like a wizard or something else in there, they're using a find familiar spell or something like that, I always see it as like a taming or a birthing of a
Sure.
creature. So like once again, I relate everything to anime. And there was this one, and the way fairies are born is if something beautiful or something like in a very specific moment is glimpsed upon and witnessed, a fairy could be born from it. So like a dewdrop falling off a leaf at the right instant, or somebody looking at the glint of like dust hitting obsidian in the firelight, like something
Hmm.
very, yeah. It doesn't have to be like, it could be like a hardcore like warrior fairy is born from obsidian in a tomb or something like that. But it's always very, it's like an impactful moment in time that is witnessed. Um, and I see a familiar kind of like you're either like reaching out for what you want and in the ether, and then the familiar of that's destined for you, you kind of like bind it by your magic. And yeah, it did exist, but it was like always like a rabbit, or some whatever realm it was.
Hmm.
And it's like a Pokemon situation where it was just a spider or whatever minding its own business, and then you were like and then like Pokemon. It's cool with you.
Right.
It just you proved you can tame it. But I did it more where it's just like this thing didn't exist
Sure.
before you, you know. So it's kind of
You
like they're
created
giving
this
that
thing.
you created this, and then it's the whole can of worms of what happens afterwards.
Mhm.
I know Critical Role did like a I think like he let his familiar go type of thing,
Mm.
and that was a thing. And I think they did a one shot where it's like he came from an agency of familiars, and there was a whole bunch type of thing. Like yeah, that was a fun goofy one shot. But I do remember like a serious like, all right, you were I had a real cat that died, and you were a fun replacement. You were there for me, and you meant a lot, but you're free now. And then kind of like let it go type of thing.
Mm.
So it was like, oh, that was he took a like a fey and kind of bound it in service to resemble his old cat, but then he let it go back to being an existing creature type of thing. Um, but with animals, unless it's combat based or something like that, it
Mhm.
doesn't come back. And I always have younger players that want a creature, want this, want that. And my groups are usually too big to be able to go like, all right, it's 3 people. What do you want to do with your Yeti tyke or something like that? So what ends up happening is I more often than not don't do money at all. I just go, oh, you get paid a little, a lot, and oh my god, you're getting paid a dumb amount. So then it's like, oh, you did a few jobs, y'all have more than enough money. Can I buy a wolf? Can I buy I just go, yeah, sure, you bought it. And then they have the satisfaction on their character sheet and all that stuff to go, I got it. And they can tell each other in between games what happens. That's not an issue.
Mhm.
But then when it comes to going, it's I I I always tell players, and I do this with adults too, uh, you know this. So I spoon feed it to them like, you know XYZ. You can do this, but you know that this is the more likely outcome. So
Sure.
you all know dangerous mission, your chicken might not survive and would get in the way. So you think it would probably you more likely than not think that it would be a bad idea to bring your chicken. Um, I did have one kid that like was the one kid that was not being a chaos gremlin,
Mhm.
and
The chaos
I
grumbling.
yeah, I rewarded him. He was a druid. I rewarded him by actually making his chicken a familiar.
That's such a
And
good process.
yeah,
Like,
I
yeah.
legitimately bound him to get together with that chicken. And then it's like, why does he get to bring it? It's just like he's casting a spell and using it in a way where he's extending his reach. He's using it for recon. Like you know, what I mean, he understood once he had it what to do with it.
Mhm.
And he was the only one that was like not like trying to like do dumb stuff. And then if there's like, in between, sessions or downtime sessions, it's just like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm gonna let them interact with those creatures in a way where it's like a little fun little, oh, haha, you're gonna have a like roll a dexterity check to give your wolf a bath. And okay, we're gonna have that little fun little side interaction. But I usually give them some sort of base, and then there's always like a pen. There's always essentially like a zoo that happens on the side. And uh more often than not, I have either twice it was somebody they defeated, and like kind of like they'll defeat a kid like a bratty teen, and
Mhm.
he ends up working for them, or like an adult that just hates this job. But essentially there's somebody's job, because they're all real animals,
Yeah.
to just keep them from not eating each other,
Mhm.
and like feeding them for them and all that stuff. And that's usually fun because that person's clearly too stressed out, and like they'll never understand. It's just like, okay, the bear is actually surprisingly chill, but it's the Yeti tykes is getting into everything. And
Yeah.
it's like the wolf always is trying to eat the chicken. The bear is super chill though. It's like it's just like the most dangerous one is not the issue, it's the little ones
Right.
that are the problem children. um but I have to keep them wrangled, only because it's just like, okay, you all can't do it. If it was one person, it's like, okay, you got to keep your newt alive. You know what I mean? That might be a fun little side thing without getting like mean with it.
Mhm.
Um, Mounts, the only mount situation I've ever had in my games was the one time I deprived the party of a mount in a drinking game,
Hmm.
and everybody in real life hated me because it was, I think, over 2 real life hours they spent attempting to actually win this horse in a drinking game, and my character lost first round. And then Junie does this sometimes where I'm like, no, let them do everything, we'll come back to me at some point later. I don't want to, because if I split up, I don't want to be the one to detract from everybody to go, oh, he's going on a solo adventure. It's like, no, bounce me for a quickie, and then we'll go back to there. I
Hmm.
split up. That's on me.
Yeah.
But over almost 2 hours of real life, and then just, what are you doing? It's just like, I go outside, look at the horse, and it's like, you don't even want to be here, do you? And I let the horse go, and everybody just stares at me. And then they all go, it's like, all right, I'm gonna go outside and get the horse. And it's like, no, you're in the middle of competition.
Right.
This is just what he's doing while you guys are in the middle of competition.
Right.
And then they all realize this has happened.
Right.
This has happened, and we can't
We
go back
can't
now.
do anything about it. Like,
We
you gave
can't undo.
exposition of what was happening. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so funny. I
and
feel like
it's yeah.
I'm I feel like I'm I have a soft spot in my soul for like characters mounts, because my first character had a mount that was like very important to him,
Mhm.
and was like something that I tied very very heavily to myself. I like invested into that story. And so there's part of me that is just always like,
What class were they?
so this was a like AD&D game.
Mhm.
They were
Was it a
they were
paladin warrior type of person?
no, they were a ranger.
Okay.
But we
Okay.
were in that game we rolled all of our stats, and then we had two additional stats that my dad had as part of the core game. And those were luck and social status. So luck was like just roll a flat d20 to see how lucky your character is. And then occasionally there would be situations where it'd be like, okay, you know what? Because you have a high luck on this, here's what is going to happen. Or because you have a low luck on this is what's going to happen. Um, Social status was kind of like to replace like backgrounds didn't exist.
Mhm.
So it kind of served that purpose to figure out where you were in like social hierarchy, and like what you could sort of build your background out for. So my first character was a 3 social status. So he was a very very low, like I think they said a 5 was like an average peasant. And so like
Okay.
2 steps below that. So I was like a like unpaid like servant or slave on like a farm in a garbage town. And so like that was where he started. So he had nothing when he like escaped and ran off and to become an adventurer. There was another character in the party named Miles, who was who rolled a 20 on his social status. So he was
Oh.
like the son of one of like essentially like the masked lords of Waterdeep. Like he was one of the like that was his family. Um
Okay.
and so he started as he was a magic user, like a wizard. But like he came from like a family of warriors, and so he had like full plate armor, not allowed to cast magic in plate armor in AD&D, so like it's
Okay.
completely useless to him, but he had this beautiful set of
Has it?
plate
Yeah.
armor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he had a war horse, and he had like all of this stuff that was like it made no sense for him to have it, other than that like his father had sent him off on this
He
journey
was
and was
equipped.
like,
He was
you're
well
I can't let you
prepared.
die, take all this
Hmm.
stuff.
Okay.
So it became a whole thing for my character Zaitarian to like one of his major pursuits was, I want to be perceived as like more important. I don't want to be stuck in this like 3 my whole life. I want to be
Hmm.
a powerful person. So he kind of fixated a little bit on like specific elements of other people's characters, of like that is something that shows that they have power. And
Hmm.
one of those things was the warhorse. So at one point, Zaitarian got access to wishes, and he used one of his
Okay.
wishes to wish for a warhorse. And in wishing for a warhorse, my dad being the stickler that he is, because I didn't specify that I wanted a tamed warhorse,
Oh
uh,
God.
a
Oh,
a
what? Oh
a
wow.
wild warhorse appeared in the clearing we were in, and just like
Okay.
was freaking out. Immediately started attacking. Was like the head of like a herd of warhorses. Was like a like just
The alpha.
the alpha warhorse essentially. And so we had to like essentially knock out this horse,
You had to break
and
it. You had to
to
really
like
tame it.
bring it
Yeah.
with us, and then it became this whole part of his story of like searching out these druids to help him like bond with this horse and stuff. And so I like that whole process was a very important one to my character. So anytime somebody is like, "Yeah, I'll get a horse," and I'm like, "Okay, what do you name the horse?" And they're like, "I don't know, it's a horse." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Who would name their horse? Not Zaitarian on the back of Morbin Elvish for the beautiful Black Death. He was just an intense. It was just an intense like uh, bond that was formed there, and so I have a soft spot there.
I have always the only two times I've gotten to use a mount in my games,
Mm,
they were always with the intent of I'm gonna wreck face with
hmm
this mount. I'm gonna go out there and cook. I'm gonna be just serving up death.
yeah,
And it was my one giant goat Horatio, and both times it was a paladin because the only time I could think of it, I was just like I didn't want to
it makes
work
so
in.
much sense for a paladin.
I just don't want I never wanted to put the burden of we got to figure out how to take care of it. Oh, we got to
Hmm.
figure out where I'm gonna keep it. Like it was always like I'm gonna get the summon steed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just make it come in. I used it incorrectly the first time I ever used it because I didn't read the casting time.
Hmm.
So the first thing I did was we had to give chase to something, and I was like, "What?" And my it was so I felt so dope. My shield had the emblem of my family, which was like these
Yeah.
ram's horns, and I was just like, "Are we gonna go get him?" And I held up my shield, and the goat jumped out of the shield,
That's super cool.
and then I jumped up and gave chase, and I felt so cool. And then afterwards, I was like, "Hey guys, I know that was really cool for story and stuff like that. Technically, I'm gonna be fair, I can't do that again because it takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
If
I can't do that again."
I
But
feel like the first time you do it, it could be like that
yeah, you know
that
what I mean? Like I
spur of
had
the
it
moment
locked and
thing. Yeah,
loaded. Yeah.
sure.
And the other time was definitely during our Humblewood game where I
Yeah,
summoned a chupacabra,
yeah.
an adorable chupacabra, to be like just essentially to help us move stuff.
Yeah.
But I
You
was
you
in my
summoned
back of
a
my
you used your paladin ability to summon a
help them
pack
move.
animal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was definitely gonna be like, well, if I don't think there's gonna be any more fights, but if we do, this chupacabra is gonna wreck face.
Yeah.
Like it's because giant goats is like,
Yeah.
it's yeah, warhorse, but like ram horns and sure footed. But anyway,
I
uh,
had a party who got rewarded with like 20,000 gold for a mission once. And they immediately turned around and spent the entirety of it on getting war elephants and like custom armor and stuff built for these war elephants. Like in Lord of the Rings, the
mhm,
Oliphants that have like the like
yes,
buildings on their back essentially that people are
hmm,
inside of. They had like those made where they had like a building on the back of this elephant essentially, but like more tent than like hard building. But yeah, they had four, I think they had four war elephants and just were like traversing the continent on these elephants. And then they ended up getting to a spot where they had to like teleport around a lot, and they were like, okay, well, we'll leave leave these elephants in the care of the city, because that city had recently been like attacked and destroyed a lot. So they're like,
Mhm.
we'll leave them in the care of the city, and the city will then like use the elephant's strength to help like rebuild the city, and in exchange they'll take care of the elephants while we're
Okay.
gone, which I always thought was very like a very clever way to do it. One thing that I have implemented into my like world to help with players who like want to teleport somewhere but also have like mounts and stuff is I
Mhm.
have just essentially a courier service in any of the major cities, that if you want to pay them, they will just like transport your stuff from one place to another. They've got like security and stuff that they'll bring along with them. I always do it as like because it's always one of my like level 10 groups who's like, we have a wagon and horses and some stuff that we need taken to this city, and then we'll meet them there. And so then I give it to a quest for give it as a quest to one of my like level 2 groups. I'm like,
Mhm.
you're going to protect this wagon as you transport it to this other town. And to them it's nothing, but then like it's a fun little quest.
Uh, when it, do you? And I know you said that like, oh, they have to end up like leaving things and places and stuff.
Mhm.
But are you a stickler for like and I know it depends on group, but nickel and diming like how are you taking care of XYZ thing? Because the only time I've ever had to do it was
Not
when
yeah.
I had an Icewind Dale campaign and it baked it in there. If they keep
Icewind
this
Dale is
bear
important.
or bears,
Yeah.
it says if they keep this bear or bears, it eats this much meat,
Mm-hmm.
which you could either go, oh, it's hard to get this much meat, or they could get this much meat, but it would cost like a gold a day
Mm-hmm.
to get enough meat to feed XYZ bears. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's kind of like they're going to eat. So like that, it's like, oh, how do you get the arrows? It's like, I know that, but it's just like unless it's like something normal like a horse, okay, it'll graze and it needs
Mm-hmm.
water. Yo, you have this thing, it needs you have a chupacabra. Do you have like a way to get goats like one every 3 days, like,
Right.
because it's gonna need a goat, like
Right.
it's gonna need a goat to eat every
For
few days.
for a special mount like that where
Yeah.
it's like this thing is going to like it is the downside of dealing with it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that like yeah they're going to be devouring meat. um Usually I'm like, if you have a ranger or somebody like that in your party, you don't need to worry about that because they'll go hunt like every night when you guys are breaking like setting up camp and stuff. The ranger
Hmm.
will go out and hunt. They'll make a survival check, like it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Usually that's how I play it. But if they have like they're gonna need a lot of meat, that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
Usually what I'll do for like mounts and stuff is if you have a party that has like a bunch of mounts, like every party member has a mount.
Hmm.
Usually that party also has some like party gold, that is like
Hmm.
everybody has their own gold, and then somebody is the holder of the
Treasurer.
party
Yeah.
gold.
Hmm.
And so what I do in that situation is I'm like, okay, whenever you get to town, um, just deduct this amount of gold every time we're like in a town, and that is you like restocking, and that just goes until the next time you're in a town. And then it sort of balances out of like when they go long stretches of time that they're just not in a city,
Hmm.
it, they only pay the when they go to a city, so like they don't have to keep track in between there of like, oh, am I running low on stuff? But then there'll be other times where they're like in a city and then they go to another city, and it's just like a bunch of cities, and every time they go to a city they pay that amount.
Yep.
And so it's just a like I have like all of the like stabling fees and the horse gets groomed and like the new horseshoes and cleaned up and all of that. So it's just like
I have
you
a
pay
fun
this
little challenge
lump
then
amount
for you.
every time you go in.
I have a fun little challenge because this is I just looked at this and it's I've seen it, but it's just seeing it in front of me reminds me that I'm like, oh yeah. I don't have a big concept of like I know this is how much this costs.
Hmm.
And this is going to be probably a fun trivia game I do with you one day. But just looking at like mounts and other animals in basic D&D,
Hmm.
um, if I throw out an animal to you, do you think you can guesstimate how much it would cost, like on paper, how
in
much they
D&D
suggest? Yeah,
cost?
yeah.
I can probably get close.
Okay, this is real quick, and then because I know it's either we're gonna just do
Yeah.
animals today, and
Yeah.
then we'll do people another day.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna go into people, this will be the last thing real fast. But a donkey or a mule, how much do you think?
A donkey or a mule is 20?
Okay,
It's 20 or 25.
okay, 8 gold.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That is surprising to me. I knew
Yeah.
they were less. But I couldn't remember how less. That is fun. I like that.
So, like with that in your brain as that point,
Good starting point.
so a mastiff, big ass dog, just a big old dog you can ride on.
Is Mastiff 20?
25.
25. Okay.
25. All right. And
I've had a lot of halflings and gnomes that have ridden Mastiffs.
All right. And one more. How about a camel?
Camel is 40?
50.
50. Okay. So same as a draft horse.
Yes.
Yeah. And then a riding horse is 75. War elephant I think is 200.
Just elephant is 200. Yeah.
Okay. And then a war horse is 400.
Yeah.
You
know what the difference between a draft horse and a camel?
like stat wise?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, not off the top of my head.
They're both 50.
Mm-hmm.
The draft horse is heavier.
Mm-hmm.
The camel's 480. The draft horse is 540. But the camel moves 10 feet more at 50 feet, and the draft horse moves 40 feet.
Draft horse is probably stronger. Camel's faster.
It's funny. Draft horse. Let's see. I don't know. Yes. Camel is 16. Draft horse is 18.
Yeah.
But so weird. They're both like low. It's so funny because there isn't always a correlation between dexterity and speed.
Mm-hmm.
So 50 and 40. But for a 40 speed, it's a 10 dexterity, and then for a 50 speed, an 8 dexterity. And this is one of those ones where it's just they're muscling through it. It's like an athletics ability at that point.
Yeah.
It is just they're muscling through it, and dexterity doesn't always mean speed. It just means, like, in this instance, they could be clumsy, but they're going to. I always say it's like are you being like a ninja or Captain America? It's like, it's like there's finesse and parkour, and then there's like I'm trained and physically fit and capable of doing this type of thing.
Yeah. Oh man.
I've always wanted to do a huge thing though, like an elephant or something like that.
Well, what I did was I gave like there's the regular like draft horse and the war horse have comparable stats. The war horse is just like trained and like equipped better usually. So what I did was for the war elephants, I figured out what the difference between a draft horse and a war elephant's cost was. Draft horse is 50, 200 for an elephant. So 4 times. And then took the war horse and was like, okay, the war horse is 400 versus 50. So if the elephant is the like draft horse equivalent to a war elephant, that means that it should be 4 times whatever the war horse is. So then multiplied that, and it's what 1600. And so 1600 for a war elephant, and then you have the armor and stuff that all had to be like custom made and stuff. It was a fun ride. They had to
I love.
find like specialized people to like make them, and there was only like one person on the continent who even like breeds war elephants and stuff. It was a wild ride.
Yeah, it was. I definitely had appreciated a pre-written adventure when in Icewind Dale when somebody did go, oh, we want to like get like armor or like barding. They wanted
Hmm.
to like basically deck out their bears.
Right.
And I think there was even like a thing where it said specifically like if you want to get something for an animal like this, it'll cost this much and take this much time type of thing. Because you can totally there are mechanics specifically for getting something to equip to an animal like
Hmm.
that. You know what I mean? You can't
Yeah.
just take like here's leather armor, just drape it over the thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's got to be strapped the right way. Otherwise, the animal's not gonna be able to do what they're gonna do type of thing.
Well,
But
if
it's
memory
yeah.
serves, it's like is it double or four times the cost of like the base armor for your
It was
uh
something like that
uh
because it was time too. Yeah, it
yeah.
was uh animal
Um
armor. I don't know, but
but that's intended for a like uh an animal, like
yeah,
or
yeah,
not
yeah,
an animal, a horse. Like that's what people are like making that armor for. If you're wanting like a bear, a camel, an elephant, like that is custom work for those things. Um,
yeah. Barding, yeah.
I do think that we are going to end up
I've already
like
accepted that we're just this is an
this is
animal
this
episode.
is this is the animals episode. We'll talk about NPCs and companions next time we want to talk about this. So probably next Monday. This but have you ever had a group that wanted to get armor for a like small animal companion or a like familiar?
Yes. Let me see. It was. I think there was a person, and I allowed this to happen with very minimal, like it was something that should have been done with like a specialty, like an enchanter
Hmm.
or like a blacksmith or something like that. But it was they were willing to take. I think they had like a cloak of evasion
Hmm.
or like a cloak that had a bonus to them, and they wanted to know, can I give this to, and it was like a mouse or a weasel or something small. And essentially what I allowed was maybe they had like a little help, but they were a wizard or something like that. So I was like, all right, using your properties of like knowing how enchantment works, and I
Right.
don't maybe they had to roll. It was like you will be destroying and sacrificing this large magic item
Right.
to basically make like imagine like so like a snow weasel, and you take this like this cloak of elven kind and you rip it strategically to just make a little pet, like a chihuahua hoodie
Hmm.
for the weasel. And I allowed them to do that because they
Yeah.
were essentially sacrificing the whatever. I think I made it an arcana check, but I didn't make it too hard because I wanted them. I was like,
Hmm.
you're giving up something for you to do something dumb with your weasel and let it happen here. So I'm like,
Right.
I didn't want to punish that, especially since they were already building in
Hmm.
the like the con here.
Yeah, I'm a
But
big fan
I
of
allowed that.
giving players a way to like destroy magic items.
My thing is either they need to know how to do it, and if they know how to do
Mhm,
it, then it's like time.
mhm,
And even if they find someone to do it, if unless it's like a downtime in between, like oh, you guys have time to prep type of thing, it's more of like not that they're very hard. It's more of like it's going to cost time. So it's like, oh, yeah, you can do it. It might not be ready by next session.
right.
You know what I mean? Maybe the one after that. It's like only because it's tricky, or maybe you lose access to that creature so they can like keep fitting it if it's a rush job type of
Mhm,
thing, and maybe it'll cost a little bit more.
yeah.
I'm bad with money in the games only because um I reward them with usually like some sort of like thing that they
Mhm,
find. and consumables. I love like my potions, and I love like things like that. Um, and I don't always like I allow for shopping, but it's more of
Mhm.
like you just have enough money type of thing.
Mhm.
My Lamortia game, where it's like a crazy scientist, I make it intentionally that she has no concept of money, and she has gotten offended. It's like a Willy Wonka situation. I think they mentioned wanting to go shopping, and I had her get offended because it's like, what could you buy out there that I can't make you here?
Right.
And she always has like a sci-fi version of things.
Mhm.
So I kind of go, as long as it's within the item rarity thing, I'm like, what would you want? And she'll make like a decked out sci-fi thing or a janky experimental something or
Yeah.
other. So like that's how we ended up with a chromatic quiver, where it's like essentially like a quiver. He puts his arrows in there, and it gets like the effect of a chromatic orb on the tip,
Nice.
essentially.
I like that.
But but
That's got some Hawkeye vibes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So but it's like, but it's not as much money there. It's the addition of things. So like they
Mhm.
don't have any creatures yet. But their whole thing is they can be modified with creatures. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like they get elements of other things.
Yeah.
Um
I had
mhm,
an archer once that had a quiver that was magically attuned to his bracer.
mhm,
And the bracer had a dial that like wrapped around his
mm,
wrist, and the quiver had like compartments
ooh,
around the base, and so he would like spin the thing on his wrist to determine like which one he wanted, and then he would stick his arrow in and then pull it out, and it would have like t- turned to be whichever one that he wanted.
just synced up. Mhm.
And so he had like essentially just like potion bottles would like slot in at the bottom, so he could do like fire or poison or whatever he wanted with it, which ended up being a very fun ability for him.
I started. The reason I started with this one was because everything should cost something.
Yeah.
Like, so if it's there should be that give and take situation. So
Hmm.
it's either like imposed, like there maybe they you give them the thing with their animal,
Hmm.
like I mean like, oh, I want to train them to do this. And it's just like, all right, maybe you do it, but maybe like, oh, you train your wolf to go get this thing, but
Yeah.
maybe it messes it up. Like, it's like, all right, I'll do it, but it's gonna chew it up on the way. You know what I mean? It doesn't know how to be gentle with it.
Right.
uh and if you want to do it good, then the cost is time.
Hmm.
But
You have
it's
to train it. You have to invest into that. Yeah.
exactly. And every game is different. It's what type of situation your game allows.
Hmm.
And I'm big I'm a big champion of let as many things happen,
Hmm.
with the understanding that there is like some sort of give and take situation.
Sure.
And it when the players know that little bit, then it becomes like, I can't just get away with anything I want, but
Hmm.
it doesn't feel like a DM is punishing you afterwards for, like, what I mean? It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
I got this and now I'm being punished. I
Yeah.
can't have fun with it.
Yeah.
It's, ooh, I knew this was gonna happen, and I can blank this. So it's like, ooh, I got to have a weird familiar that I couldn't have normally,
Hmm.
but maybe like, instead of just full blown listening to me, is I got to convince it, even though I am
Right.
supposed to have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of fun ways to go there, but every give and take, there's always room for compromise.
Hmm.
I say there, it's not supposed to be combative.
Hmm.
Uh, but uh, Hunter, are there any other pieces of advice that you would offer a DM when it comes
Oh.
to familiars, animals, creatures, mounts, things of this nature, that you feel in your much more robust experience? Is there something you've learned? It's just like, blank. I've learned this. Like for me, it's just try not to introduce an animal if I can help it, because then they're gonna want more of them. I don't know how I did it, but
Sure.
they kept collecting bears in my one game. They just kept finding bears, and they had once they hit 3 bears, it was like, yo, we're gonna keep finding bears, and I was like, crap, and it was
Yeah,
legitimate. It wasn't even like
right.
me
It's a
putting in front of them. It just
you've
happened.
created a challenge now to see
I
how many
yeah.
bears we can
It
recruit.
was my story had accidentally put enough bears in front of them,
Mm-hmm.
and they saw legitimate opportunities to tame them. And then I was like, okay, I gotta be careful where I gotta put bears or put these things. Don't put them so close together, or they're going to do it and take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So I try not to put too many of similar things, because then it'll develop a pattern.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what do you
next
have
time
anything?
when we talk about NPCs, I can talk about all about the town of Olenyor, which was a town that Emily's group found, like got the deed to this old rundown town, and started like rebuilding it. But then they had a town that just was like empty. So they kept inviting NPCs to come move to their town, and they were just collecting NPCs to like live in the town with them. But yeah, I can talk all about that when we talk about NPCs
Okay.
for creatures, and like animals, familiars, and mounts. To me, there is this like difference that needs to be stated between those three categories of a actually I'd say four, like animal companion, a familiar, a mount, and a pet. Those four are all different.
Yes.
A pet should not be going on adventures. A pet should not be going with you to wherever you are going, because they absolutely will die. If you are putting it into a bag of holding, they are going to suffocate. If you are putting them, like if you are just having them like in your like pocket or something, if you get hit with a fireball, they are there as well. Like those are like, don't bring a pet with you. If they are a pet,
Yeah.
if your players are getting pets, they should also have a base that those pets can live at, and then they get to be excited to go see those pets when they are like
Yeah.
going back to
Hmm.
their base. With a animal companion, an animal companion is a normal animal that has been well trained and is bonded to this person. So a an animal companion can do things that a pet probably couldn't do, but not things that like you would need to be an awakened animal for.
Hmm.
They just have that sort of like bond, and they're much more eager to like do tasks to the best of their normal animal capabilities.
Hmm.
An animal companion should go on adventures with you, but should be like, it should be kept in mind that like if battle breaks out, you probably don't want them in combat.
Correct. Yeah.
Like you want them to be trained to like stay at the back if needed. I did have a group that had a Saint Bernard as a an animal companion of their group. And what they did, you know how Saint Bernards notoriously have that like little like barrel around their
Yes.
neck.
Hmm.
They had one of those, but they filled it with healing potions. And so they had the Saint Bernard that was trained to like, he's going to stay at the back of the part, like at the back of the group. He's not going to get involved. If everybody is down, he'll run away. But if he sees somebody go down, he would run over to them, and he had healing potion in his collar, and he was like strong, so a party member who was like at one hit point or something could like grab onto him and be like pulled out of the battle a little bit, and then drink some healing potion and get back up. Like stuff like that is fun. If you want your stuff to be protected, I'm always of the mindset that any magic item that is not attuned, like any non-attunable magic item, is a magic item that like if you want to figure out a way to give it to your pet, you can try. Like they can wear, sure, they can wear a cape as long as it'll fit them. If you want to destroy it and make it smaller, you can do that too. If you want to like give them a headband of intellect, but you want to put it on them like a collar, like if you want to have the ring just sort of like chained in there like the little dog tag or something like that, like yeah, we can find ways to do that to make them better. If you want to have like armor for pets, absolutely have like that exist. One of the best pieces of advice I can give you is if you see a party like if you have a party that is like, we are going to have animals, and you
Yeah.
want to give them a way to ensure that they don't die, make an NPC who is focused on that, who is like in trouble in some way. They like are under attack by bandits or something like that, and the party finds them and can help them like get to wherever they're needing to go and set up their shop and stuff. And then the NPC is like, "Oh, what do? I make armor for like animals and like I make custom magic items specifically for animals and stuff like that."
Mm-hmm.
It's always a gnome. Like make a little like gnome druid turned enchanter, an armor smith, and like give them an NPC who is like focused on that and who is excited to help them because they helped him, and so he'll do it like at cost, and like
Yeah.
like anything he can do for you, it'll be the cheapest prices he can get you for it. Make it reasonable for them to like be able to do it. But like he's always willing to help because like they saved his life. um and then so that's like pets and animal companions. For mounts, if you have mounts, you need to have some service for like taking care of them. Simplify things as much as possible. If you want food, stuff like that, simplify it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to just steal my like every time you get to town it is this much per mount, and like that's all we have to deal with because the same group will take care of them every time. Like it's
I,
very easy. It
I
reduces all the overhead cost.
I did a TikTok one time where it was essentially just it was having a franchise of like, because it was Icewind Dale, so it was like a
Yeah.
franchise of dog sled like rentals.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like you'd pay a deposit,
Mm-hmm.
and so because if you are keeping track of money, it can get expensive because these are creatures, and like there's upkeep. So it's kind of like it's a deposit. You get some of it back, but you have to hope that like for me it was a fun thing of, do they have things available?
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like it was, oh, you can rent a team and like they might not be as great,
Right.
but it's cheaper and you could turn them back in.
Yeah.
Are there any rentals available type of thing? But
I
like pepper them around so they can not feel bad if they ditch them,
Yeah.
but it's like, oh, this is a rent a car, they can just get it and then
I
drop it off somewhere.
I legitimately have a like a business in most of the major cities
Mm-hmm.
of my main continent, that I just called Enterprise Horse Rental.
Yeah. Yep.
And like occasionally there is a like there is one that has things that aren't horses. Like there's one out in the desert city, and they have
Mm-hmm.
like camels and elephants and stuff. And when you go there, they're like, "Oh, okay, so if you want to rent it from here to like this town in
Oh
the
wow.
main area,
Wow.
like you're gonna have to pay like a return fee because we're gonna have somebody like bring those back here
Oh
because
wow.
nobody
Yeah.
wants them out there."
Mm-hmm.
Which gives a whole
That's a
different
fun.
dynamic that you get to play with.
Oh man,
Like, oh, are you
that's a
looking
big
for
one.
like a round trip or a one-way trip? Like they're different costs. Like there's so much that you can do with it.
You have to develop a full blown business model
Hmm.
for this in your D&D game,
Yeah.
which
Go
we've done
through
before.
Enterprise's website, steal
Mm-hmm.
everything for
Mm-hmm.
like how they handle their rentals, and then just like use that for mounts.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy.
There's calculators for
Yeah.
there's calculators for how much gold 5e
Um so that's
yeah, a gold piece
pets, animal
is
companions,
$400.
mounts.
Is
That's wild.
$490. Yeah.
That's things are so the pricing in D&D is so
Mm-hmm.
bonkers.
Yeah,
Uh
I just kind of go like most things are a gold and then try to equivalent them to like
mhm,
it is a dollar and then
yeah,
go like this. Yeah.
yeah. Um so the last one is familiars.
Mm-hmm.
Give familiars their own personalities, give familiars their own like ability to do stuff. If a warlock has a familiar and that familiar is being treated poorly by the warlock, they're not gonna necessarily be super helpful.
This
Same
is
thing.
where I differ with you though. This
You
is where
you think that a warlock's familiar
no,
is
not that,
going.
not that. It's just on the blanket term familiar. If it is a warlock familiar, give it personality. If it is not a warlock
Oh,
familiar,
you think
I never
non-warlock
give them
familiar? Okay.
I don't give them personality, because then at that point I go like, what do you imagine this as?
Hmm.
Because it's the player like trying to birth some sort of whatever, and then I will ask like, oh, do you think it feels things, it has a personality type of thing, because I give that to them. But if they're a warlock, there's so many things that by nature there's just
Sure.
out of their control.
Yeah.
Then that's when I go like, I'm taking the reins as far
Sure.
as background, how this thing might react. It'll do it. I'm not going to take it from you,
Hmm.
but it might be sassy about it, or it
Right.
might complain or something. But if it's like a fae, or like if
Hmm.
it's like a rabbit or something like that, I never give them personality much more than whatever it is on the like the surface level. So if
Sure.
it's like, oh, they summoned like a hummingbird or something like that, it might flitter, but
Hmm.
like it's not gonna. I'm gonna ask them what they're gonna do. I
Hmm.
don't give it any sort of other. Oh, it gets distracted by nectar type of thing. I would go.
Sure.
Do you think it would at that point?
Hmm.
Uh,
See,
but
I think those
that's where
can go
I
hand in
kind
hand
of
though.
diverge. Yeah,
If
yeah,
you
yeah.
have like if you're saying I want to give the reins to the player and be like, okay, like what do you imagine the personality of this thing
Yeah,
is like?
yeah.
That's not mutually exclusive from having
Correct,
that
correct.
creature have
Yes.
personality. You're
Because
just
if they're
it's
like,
just
oh, this is
a
like a wizard's familiar, then I'll be
mhm,
like, oh, if you're telling me this is like, if this is how we're thinking this as a group, like
mhm,
this is what as a table we're establishing could be it,
mhm.
then they're going like, tell me if this thing has a backstory. I'm like, well, then guess what? It's a cat, but it's gonna be smoking a cigarette, and so it's just like rookie. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's just like it knows you're clearly a low level. You don't know what you're doing. I'm gonna do it, but bro,
Yeah.
man, you don't know what you're doing.
I had a Warlocks familiar that got he was packed to the Fae, I want to say, and then ended up like breaking that pact and becoming packed to the Fiend, and
Mm.
his and got a new familiar. So like the next time he cast like find familiar, it was a
Oh,
different spirit, and he was like, hey, like I need you to go do this thing, and he was like, screw you, man, like I'm good, like it was just this big white fluffy cat, and he's just like rolling around on the floor. He's like, I'm not that hallway's so clearly trapped. I'm not going down there. Um,
imagine if it was a fiend before and then it went to Fae.
it was a Fey and went to Fiend.
Imagine if it was the same familiar, but is just there, and it's like when it comes back the next time, it's like, what's wrong? It's just like, um, there's been a change in management, and just they do things a little differently.
Someone bought out my contract.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody brought
Yeah,
up my contract. It's just like, yeah, let's just say water cooler talk's a lot different. Something I have to get used to.
that's
So
incredible. Yeah, I
and just
love
like
that.
having to get used, like, what do I do?
What
What
I'm
do I do?
saying is, if it's a Warlock's familiar, 100% give it personality,
Yeah.
give it
Mhm.
dimension, give it the authority to say no to it,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
its master,
Yeah.
because like it's there in
It's a,
service of its master, and
correct.
you are like also, so it's mutually aligned goals.
Yeah.
Um,
We're both
I
employees here. Yeah.
I agree that if it is a if it's like a wizard's familiar, especially with how you've described it of like they are creating it, that one definitely needs to pull from whatever the person who created it does. But I would say give the player the agency to be like, this is the sort of vibe of the
Yeah.
thing, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
take
Yeah.
that and run it like you would an NPC for like anything else, because it is a fey, celestial, or fiendish spirit.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
So it's not a regular animal.
It's not a, yeah, and it's not
it
a
is a fey,
construct.
fiend,
Yeah.
or celestial creature.
Yeah. And it
So
isn't a construct where it's not going to have any sort of like self-preservation instinct.
yeah.
Like it could know enough, oh, let me step to the left or something like that.
Hmm.
So it's not mindless.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's more of like, oh, it's going to behave like a creature that is like smarter and connected. But it's like anything can have a personality,
Mhm.
but I it's very easy as a DM to impart whatever personality we want to
Sure.
something in the
100%.
moment. And it's one of those ones that I would go, because whenever somebody's making, like, they make the decision, I want to have a familiar, it's
Mhm.
they have something in mind.
Mhm.
So it's one of those, give them the opportunity to set that part up, only because we do it by reflex. We
Sure.
we like we personify a chair. Like, we
Mhm.
can put personality and flavor on anything.
Right.
And it's one of those things where it's like, we have to, like, put that restraint on us on the front end,
Mhm.
because we know that this is something that, oh, they super duper wanted and stuff like that.
100%.
And even then, people are usually cool with, like, some level of, like, flavoring in there, as
Mhm.
long as you're not taking it away from them completely. It's just
Mhm.
like, oh, they're, is it a little sassy? It's like, yeah, I think it's okay. Then the hummingbird's a little sassy about it
Mhm.
now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we've established that together.
Yeah.
So
The last thing I would say would be everybody like familiar is only on a couple spell lists.
Mhm.
Anybody who casts magic wants to be able to use familiar.
Correct.
I have like crafters in my world who make rings and amulets that will
Mhm.
allow you to like bond it to a like normal animal
Mhm.
to be able to like blink it away if you need to be able to like
Mhm.
bring it back to if that animal like hits 0 hit points, it gets pulled back into the thing so it's protected. Like that way you are able to have like
That's Pokemon. You just
yeah,
described
it's
Pokemon. Yeah.
Pokemon. But
Yeah.
I've had players use it for their like pets that they want to bring with them for their like I've had rangers that are going to buy it to be able to use for their animal companion. I've had people that are like, can we bond these to our mounts? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So like they have I have one group that had 5 people in the party. Each of them had one of these rings. They bonded it to their horses. And so when they get to like dungeons and stuff, they just blink the horse into their ring, and they go and do the dungeon. And when they leave, they blink the horse back out, and it's
Yep.
now
That's perfect.
something they don't have to worry about anymore.
That that's
Um,
that's that's how I would love to deal with. Like, that's really good. I think that that's a fun and a real easy quest giver or NPC,
mhm,
like, gift type of thing to give. Like, I always give sending stones or
mhm.
walkie-talkie earrings or something like that.
The walkie-talkie
And
earrings is such a good one.
I've this is be all tiny tangent. I've done, like, janky sending stones, like,
Mm.
where it's the same guy that does my potions.
Uh-huh.
He's trying to branch out, and he wanted to, he figured, oh, what if I can, like, get more bang for my buck with the sending stone? And he, like, breaks sending stones, right?
Mhm.
And makes the earrings out of them, but they're not that great, because you have to direct them.
Okay.
So I think the rule I did with this was,
So it's more like message where you have to like point
it's
at
like
the person.
message, and then you have to kind of, like, roll to aim a little
Mm.
bit. If you have a spell attack, like, aim it, only because if people are in the way, it can, like, it can hit them, and then I might do like a mind sliver situation where so he's like, yeah, you gotta be careful, because if you
Yeah,
miss or you don't do it right, somebody's head might explode.
that's
So
so
just be
good.
careful. But just, like, like, janky, like,
I
turn
would
sending stones into earrings, and
I
then
would also, with that, I would 100%, when you're driving and you're like listening to the radio and you're leaving the area where that radio station
oh my
covers and you
god,
just sort
yeah,
of start picking up a different radio station, I would
that'd be cool.
100% just occasionally have it picks up like a piece of some other message that is flying through
Yeah,
the
that'd be
air.
good. Yeah.
It's like, this is going to, like, this is a sending spell sent from somebody north of you to somebody south of you, and it just like picks up 3 words of it, and you're like, like, yeah,
Mm,
it'd be so fun.
that's a fun side quest. That's a fun little
You just pick up
uh
like 3 words that sound like a distress call, but they don't give you like any
context. Yeah.
location, any context for what's happening. You're just like, somebody's in trouble,
Yeah,
and I have no way of finding it.
you jump on your magical mounts, and
Hmm.
then you go to these magical random side quests that we
You
we put out there.
you take your ring back to the person that made it, and you're like, it hasn't been used since. Can you trace the last call?
Oh my god.
And like find out where it was located. That'd be incredible. That'd be such a
Mm.
fun like side quest to go off on.
This really good.
Okay.
All right. So
Do you have anything else you want to throw in about
I
animal companions?
just be smart with it. In the same way, everybody knows that if you mention something in a game of D&D, there is the possibility that the players are going to latch onto it. We'll go into it when we go into our NPC episode, but we never know what thing or person or
Mhm.
object is going to be the object of your like party's like eye. So
Yeah.
just be weary, know that the possibilities always exist, that it's just like, okay, this, and if you know that they have adopted something, in my
Mhm.
opinion, just be very mindful if you use it again anywhere. And it's real easy to do if you go, oh, in this area there's a lot of blank.
Mhm.
In my instance, there was bears. So it's just they kept adopting bears.
Yeah.
But like, so just be mindful of when you introduce things, and then if you go to introduce something too similar to it, that then you're establishing a precedent. You're
Right.
establishing this is what can happen, and then your campaign will become something else.
And it
And you'll
goes
be
double for anything that's a small creature. If you have if your party
Oh,
has
yeah.
adopted a small creature and then
Mhm.
you describe there being a bunch of them in that area, they're immediately going to go,
Mhm.
"Oh, he needs a friend," and immediately
Yep.
want more of them.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
100%.
So yeah.
Don't create a magical like don't create an NPC that like travels from town to town selling like unique creatures like owl bears and baby displacer beasts and stuff like that if
Mhm.
you don't want your party to all spend a ton of money on getting a bunch of
Correct.
pets.
Correct.
Do not put do not put like pseudo dragon eggs into your game if you don't want them to immediately take those eggs and try and raise
Mhm.
baby dragons. Like don't do it. If
Don't do
do
it.
it if you want to. 100%. Those are both mistakes I've made in real games. Do it if you want to. Like put them out there. But be prepared for the fact that the moment your party has access to those things, it is a focus now.
Yep. Yep. That's all correct.
um
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Yeah,
we did it.
we
We
did
did the thing.
did part 1.
We did some there's going to be some scheduling stuff. I'm going to be at Gen Con.
Yes.
Not Gen Con. Yeah, Gen Con. I'm
Yeah,
like,
Gen
I don't know
Con.
where I'm going to be. I'm going to be at Gen Con. So I'm throwing a little bit of a wrench in our schedule.
Mhm.
So I will not be able to join on Friday.
Mhm.
But I also travel back the following Monday.
Mm.
So
So
that
are
might
we
be,
taking a week off?
I believe that might be the case. Unless my Friday is like, I would let you know beforehand because I would
Mhm.
know probably by tomorrow. So it's like, yo, I don't have to do anything until 9:30.
Yeah.
Then it's just like, oh, I'll do a live from Gen Con type of
Mhm.
thing.
Well, it's
But
also
yeah,
Indianapolis, so it'd be like an extra hour. Because it's
no,
the
it's the same
it
time zone.
Oh, is it same time zone?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 'Cause I
Huh.
thought the same thing. Yeah. But then but after that, we're doing a fun game. Where you want to talk about our space thing, our
Yeah.
space situation.
We are playing Pirate Borg over on Rosie's channel, playing through some space pirates. It's gonna be very, very interesting. We have our tomorrow night, we're not streaming anything, but tomorrow night we're having like a group like get together, talk everything over, flesh out the rest of our character stuff.
Which I jank up, of course, again because of my travel.
Mm.
I I I'm I
Oh, do you
I
leave
thought
tomorrow?
I do, and I thought I was just going to be at the airport, but it's
Mm,
not. I'm just at the airport. I'm in between flights because I was just gonna come in at the. I was like, oh, I'll just camp out and I'll be like out here before I go to my
mm,
my thing. But it might be too close. So
mm,
I'm gonna double check because it's so close where it's like it might just be fine. It might not be an issue,
mhm.
but it might also be that I can't.
Yeah.
So there's that possibility.
You'll
But
throw your headphones in, and
yeah,
if it works, it works, and
I can join
otherwise,
from the sky. I'll join from the sky, and
it's gonna
just
be a
do it.
good time though. That
I
stream is
did
gonna
do this
be
though. I
wild.
downloaded your here's your guy,
Nice.
and I have my person too, and you can see the common denominators here. You know,
Is that we're just
we're
regular people,
yeah, but like you're
just
clearly
two
two
super
normal
normal
regular
people.
dudes. I'm sitting on a box, you're doing that cool thing where like you can just like sit in like the air, and
Yeah.
you're like because your legs are so powerful, so we're both doing like sitting situations.
That's
But
my Mortal Kombat like idle animation, is just him sitting there like that and just slowly kind of breathing and moving a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um
not no spoiler, but I'm pretty sure like I need to like double triple confirm it with Rosie, uh but like as far as like she was like don't kill me, I'll promise not to kill you in session 0. I was just like I could just be like in a basement somewhere. I could just be in a basement somewhere like the whole time. It's just like, huh? What? Like,
but yeah, so we'll be doing that for August. So if we're not doing a show this Friday or Monday, that means our next show would be the 11th, which is my birthday. Um,
woo!
so we'll see what that looks like. I should probably check with Grace and see if we have like
Check
more
first, I
morning
guess.
plans.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we will for sure be back on the 14th.
We will be back. This is
um,
not goodbye.
yeah,
This is just a busy time. That's all.
it is. Beginning of August is always like just so hectic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we will be back next time to do more things and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we will either continue this one and talk about NPCs, or we'll do the next in the ranking of creatures. We still have quite a few of them to get through.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't been watching that series, go check it out. And otherwise, you'll be able to catch us on Rosie's channel for the Silver and the Stars, which is very exciting. Um, Junie,
Mm-hmm.
if people are at Gen Con and want to say hey, where can they find you?
I'm gonna be at the Norse Foundry booth. So you can get really awesome dice there.
They're
But
super good.
you can check me out there. And just let me know. Let me know. Hey, I know you. I like that. I like doing that. I like when I see people from not from the internet, and being them and be like, hey, look, I've seen you,
Hmm.
and then I muss up their hair. I promise I won't muss up your hair.
I make no such promise, but I also won't be at Gen Con, so I can't. PAX Unplugged, though, maybe. I don't know. I haven't decided if I'm going. Um,
You gotta.
I really want to. We'll see. The problem is Grace and I get back from vacation like halfway through the week before. So it'd be like on a vacation and then immediately like that weekend going away again. So
Mm.
I have to figure out what that looks like from a logistics perspective, but Unplugged is so close. Like theoretically I could just go down for like a day or something if I wanted to. Okay.
I see what booth I'm at. I'm gonna be at booth 2073. That's where I'm gonna be. Yeah. So it's there. I don't know if that's. I don't think it's the main booth. I don't know. It could be. I think that
Who
might be.
knows?
Yeah. Anyway, I will be there.
We will see you next time.
Good amount of time. Yeah.
Junie will be out at Gen Con if you're going to be there. Otherwise, on not tomorrow, but the following Tuesday, that is August 8th, it will be the first episode of Silver in the Stars. I keep saying Silver in Our Stars, and I'm fairly certain that's wrong.
That's soap opera.
It's very soap opera.
That's the telenovela version of it. Translated.
But come check us out for that. Otherwise, we will see you guys around. Have a great rest of your week. We'll put out a tweet if we end up doing anything on Friday. We'll put out a X if we're gonna do anything on Friday. But we'll keep you posted. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Until we see you again. Remember to command your animal companions out of harm's way. Remember to save every NPC you come across on the road in the hopes that they might be able to make cool stuff for your pets. And if you see the ability to have a wish and you want a warhorse, wish for it to be tamed already. We'll see you guys next time. Have a great rest of your week, and remember to embrace the nonsense. Bye, guys.
Bye.